section 2-4. Okay, we're going to talk about deductive reasoning. And so, if you remember, we watched a video at the start of this chapter, and it was about inductive and deductive reasoning. Remember, it was the one with the tennis balls, and they were throwing at each other. And so, if you remember deductive reasoning, they had a definition there, and it was really similar to this one. It's arriving at a conclusion using facts, definitions, rules, or properties. Okay, deductive reasoning arriving at a conclusion using facts, definitions, rules, or properties. Okay, so that's what deductive reasoning is. Now later on in today's lesson, we're going to review what inductive reasoning is as well. Okay, because remember we started this chapter with inductive reasoning. And so let's go ahead and look at the following problem. Okay, this is an algebra problem. It says solve the equation for x. Give a reason for each step in the process. So we're going to have to think back to all of those rules that we used in algebra, and we're going to now have to write them down. So what would the very first thing you would do if you were going to solve this equation? Yeah, you would distribute. So I'm going to distribute that 3 to each and the 2 to each. So when I do that, I get
6x plus 3 plus 4x plus 4 equals 42.
So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go ahead and put a little rule over here, and I'm going to say distribute. Okay, what would you do now? Combine like terms, add like terms. So here I've got 6x and 4x, which is very good. What does that give me? 12. So what we did is we combined like terms, add like terms. Okay. What should we do now? Add 5x. Okay. So add 5x first. So I end up getting 15x plus 12 equals 42. Why can we do that? Well, that's just adding. What do you do now? Subtract 12. So I get 15x equals 30. So this is subtract. What do you know what? Probably should put subtraction. That would be a little bit better. Let's put addition. That sounds a little bit better. Okay, then what do you do now? Divide by both sides by 15. So you end up getting x to equal 2. And so this was by division. Okay, so we just used deductive reasoning to solve that problem. Now when you went through and you actually solved this problem in algebra, you don't actually write the steps down, but you think through them. So let's go and look at another type of problem that you can use deductive reasoning on. In each diagram, ray AC bisects obtuse angle BAD. Classify angle BAD, angle DAC, and angle CAB as acute, right, or obtuse. Then complete the conjecture. So let's start with angle BAD. In this picture, first one, what is BAD? Obtuse. What is DAC?
Acute.
Acute. What is CAB?
Acute.
Acute. Okay, what about here? What's DAB? Obtuse. What's DAC?
Acute.
Acute. What's BAC?
Acute.
Acute. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, BAD. What is that one?
Obtuse.
What is that one?
Obtuse.
Obtuse. Okay, BAC is acute, and CAD is. Now, if those of you are wondering, okay, how can you tell that? I mean, how can you tell if it's right? You look at the measures. If AC bisects this big angle, what must each of those angles be?
Equal.
Yeah, and so what must they be here in this problem?
46 degrees.
46 degrees. Basically, remember, a bisector cuts it into two equal parts. So what would half of 158 be?
74.
70 something. 79. And what about the first one?
60.
60. Okay, so let's look at this conjecture. Let's use some deductive reasoning skills. If an obtuse angle is bisected, then the two newly formed congruent angles are acute. Good job. So now, let's look at this. Now, this is a review. We've discussed inductive reasoning. Remember, inductive reasoning allows the discovery of new ideas based on observed patterns. Okay, you should already have that written down from section 1. But remember, inductive reasoning, you're looking for a pattern. Okay? Deductive reasoning helps explain why conjectures are true, because deductive reasoning is your justify. Okay, that's your explanation. Think back to the first problem we did. What did you do each step? You justified why you could do that. Distribution, remember that? Addition, subtraction, adding, like terms. So that is deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning, you look at observed patterns. Okay? So let's go ahead and turn to page 116 in your book. I want you to go ahead and turn there. Page 116. Now, I've got that up here on the board. We're actually going to do this one in class together. So let's go ahead and see what it says. It says in each segment, AB is congruent to CD. Okay? So you see that AB in the first segment is what measure? 25. CD is also 25. What about in the next one? 36 and 36. So notice what it says in step 1. From the markings on each diagram, determine the lengths of AC and BD. So let's look at the first diagram. What would AC measure? AC would measure what? 100 centimeters. What about BD? 100. Because notice you've got 75 and 25. What about AC in the second diagram? What's that going to measure? 116. Okay, what about BD? 116. So what do you notice about those two segments? They're equal. Okay, they're equal in each of those. So notice what it says. It says draw a new segment, label it AD. Place your own points B and C on AD so that AB is congruent to CD. So you can already see that, step 2. Measure AC and BD. How do the lengths compare? What do you think is going to happen in that one? They're going to be the same. So let's go ahead and complete the conclusion of this conjecture. It says if AD has points A, B, C, and D in that order, with AB congruent to CD, then what can you conclude?
AC will be congruent to BD.
Okay, good. AC is going to be congruent to BD. Now, believe it or not, that's one of the first conjectures that you've got down. Okay, you're going to have a ton of conjectures at the end of this year, and you're actually going to have a conjecture list. This is the first one. This is called the overlapping segments conjecture. Okay, the overlapping segments conjecture. It's one of those things that might not be a bad thing to write down. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about conjectures. When we start getting to a bunch of them, you're going to have a separate part in your notebook just for the conjectures. Okay, you don't want those interspersed. So if you want to copy that down, you can actually find that on page 116. Okay, page 116. And that would probably be a good idea to fill that in. Okay, your assignment for tomorrow, pages 117 and 118, 1 through 6, 8, 10, 14 through 20. Okay, 1 through 6, 8, 10, 14 through 20.